Ustadha. I think this, first I want to thank the Campbell and all the organizers, Barakallah Fikum, for organizing this. It's like, as I said, it's a spiritual detox for us, for all of us. Alhamdulillah, we enjoy coming every year. We hope we're invited back next year, inshallah. Today, we're going to talk about the 10th pillar, which is the pillar of trust. And subhanAllah, I hope by the end, first, did I say this when I was about to start? Sorry. You will, hopefully by the end of this lecture, you will see why, subhanAllah, it is the last principle that's noted, or the last pillar that's noted, and really see how they all tie in together. SubhanAllah, trust is really essential to this movement, and to any movement. Trust not only within the members themselves, trusting one another in this movement, but also, more importantly, or just as important, is trusting your leader, the leadership. Extremely valuable. Because if you think about it, we have the call to action. We have the call to be obedient. But how can you have that if you don't trust one another? For example, if you're on a team and you're supposed to carry on an event, and I've been assigned certain tasks and another sister's been assigned certain tasks. If I don't trust that my other sister is going to take care of everything, I'm going to be constantly worried that she's not going to do it, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to start taking over her tasks. How many of you have seen that? That, right? You've been assigned, everybody's clearly been assigned, but this guy, she's always last minute. I don't like the flyers that he makes. This brother, I don't know, shady, I'm not sure of his ideas. He's going to make up a weird slogan, I don't trust it. So then you take it upon yourself and you start thinking, I'm going to have to do it. So this is a lack of trust. So we cannot move forward and move through all these basic, essential ideals within an organization if all of those other things that we talked about, sincerity and understanding and what have you, if it doesn't end with trust. More importantly, is also within the leadership itself. So alhamdulillah, sister came up with this perfect, she was asking me just before we came in here about what do you do when your leader happens to be a youth lead, over the youth department, that they're always putting together events and it's last minute. And you're assigned all these tasks and you know it's going to work out, but it's not going to be as successful because you didn't have as much time either to advertise or to set up or to get the better speakers or what have you. And the question is, well, what do I do? It's getting tiring. So should I move to another department? So this is I told about Coffee, this is a perfect example of trust within the organization. So in this situation, what would some of you recommend? Should you do it and you know that it's going to work out, but it's going to be not as successful? Or should you voice your concern? Or what is it that you should do? What are some ideas? Yes?
Delay it for a while, and start working on it, and take it seriously.
Okay. Okay, delay it, and would you bring it up, or just kind of, you're being asked to do something.
Yes.
So do you push to delay it, or you just kind of not do it?
If I cannot finish by that deadline, then I have to announce to the that I have to.
You have to announce to the group to delay. Okay, it's like, okay, Summer?
I think it would be good to put your full effort into it to make it happen, but then also to at the same time give advice that next time we have to really, make sure we do, on time. We have to have enough planning time.
Very good. And anybody else? Yes.
I think to add on to Salman's point, you get it done, but you also try to get to the root cause of the problem. Why are we constantly putting on last minute events? And basically, you can't just come up to your leadership and say, like Dr. Ahmad said yesterday, we have problems without a solution, without offering a solution.
Right.
So you want to think about what the root cause is and suggest an alternative way of getting it done so that it's no longer a last minute.
Exactly. Barakallahu fikum.
Just to add on, just do it as best you can, and then tell the person next time, give them a set date, let me know at least by this amount of time that I have to do a project from now on. Give them a certain number of days or weeks.
Right. All of these suggestions, Barakallahu fikum, is being proactive. You're not just saying no and you're just arguing and you're wasting time and then the time is moving on. The leadership has already decided this is going to happen. You're being actually proactive. Yes, for next time.
Just to add on to his add-on. It shouldn't, yes, things come up last minute and that's fine. And we should be able to deal with that. However, it shouldn't be a recurring issue. So if it's always getting last minute, It's like, you know, like my mom would say, like, go back in, and she'd be like, what are you gonna do next?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Sisters, any other comments? Yes.
Maybe also get a third party involved within that organization to maybe mediate between the two and kind of give another outside opinion that would.
Maybe like another member within the organization? Barakallahu fiki. Exactly. And I think this is, did you want to say something? I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. That, subhanAllah, taking the task that's been given to you, this is a matter of trusting your leader. It's being obedient, number one. And second, it's trusting not only in your leadership, but subhanAllah, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In your mind, you know, and these are, mashallah, brother Muhammad, he talked about all of the different personalities. And I'm definitely one of, like, astaghfirullah, this is one of my worst traits of being last minute. So I told this sister, as a leader, if you see this quality in me, so help me out. Why don't you come up and say, you know what, we have this, we want the next 12 months, these are the next things we want to do on campus. I'm not going to say, why are you doing this? This is my leadership role. I'm supposed to come up with it on my own. I'm going to appreciate that, and then we can sit back, and I'm not going to fight this last minute event. I'm going to do it with ihsan. That's the thing. Don't be like, oh, this flyer is going to really suck. I'm only have a day to do it. I only have half a day. I only have an hour to do it. You do it with ihsan. You do it with full commitment and sincerity, and inshallah the event will turn out okay, or maybe even amazing. And then afterwards, in the coolness, after the storm, then you go ahead and you approach this. I notice, perhaps this is again the kind of nice talk in which you approach somebody when you have a problem, that I notice that you're very busy, so-and-so, brother so-and-so, or sister so-and-so, and a group of us wanted to get together and plan out the calendar for the next year. How do you feel about that? And then maybe you can approve it. And they're gonna want it. Who's gonna say, no, I don't want help? No one's ever gonna, but it's the way in which you do it.
And then as for your thought, after the decision made, that's it. Because if you talk in that moment, that will break all the trust between you and your brothers, between you and your sister, between every generation. Like you find yourself like in the end, it's like you gain nothing.
You gain
because
nothing.
before you go and talking, I didn't like that, I didn't like that, I said okay. But after the decision made, you agree, keep going. That will make your trust like, you know, more than what you like looking for.
MashaAllah. Jazakumullah khair. So that's the reason why that we're talking about trust today, because you cannot build and move in the organization until you have that. Yes.
I just had a quick question. Let's say that you trusted someone with making a title or a logo or something like that, and Allah, like, it was genuinely bad. Like, it was just like, oh,
Right.
what are you doing? Like, can you just tell them, like, this is bad?
It depends. Are you in a position over them, or just kind of as a peer? As a peer, I would use the nice language. I would use the smooth talk and say, you know, perhaps it's not going to be as effective as we wanted it to be, or maybe this is not. Maybe this slogan may be misunderstood, or title may be misunderstood, or perhaps, you know, what if we adjust this logo? Maybe it might make it more captivating, or might make it more interesting. You definitely have you're in the position to do so, and even if you're a peer, actually, and maybe your superior is the one. I say superior, I don't really mean to make it seem like it's an army, but I'm just trying to say in terms of, you know, if you have a group leader or what have you, you even have that ability to do it, even if it was somebody that was above you. Again, it's just approaching in a nice way and not coming off in an arrogant manner and happy. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Inshallah. I mean, I hope, honestly, subhanAllah, saying something in a nice way, even if it's not something that's going to be 100% agreeable to the other person, it makes a huge difference. Rather than getting frustrated, telling other people how bad it is, they hear it from the other way around, and it just creates enmity and it creates anger.
Also, I noticed when you're dealing with like in an MSA environment, I noticed that like sometimes a person makes like a flyer that people don't like.
Right.
But I mean that person probably spent like hours coming up with it. So if you like criticize them too harshly, then you'd be like, forget you guys, I don't want to work with you again.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's why you may not agree with something, but the way in which you approach it is very important. And the best way sometimes to understand is for you having done a similar task. You know how long it takes to put something together. So not to come off in such a harsh manner. Yes.
Also, I had a similar situation where a sister wanted to do a flyer. She did spend hours on it, really hours, and like there was no way I could tell her, you know, like, I thought about my options, you know,
Okay.
I tell her it's not a good flyer, she might not ever do one again, and
Right.
kind of leave the movement. So or just use a flyer, you know.
Mashallah.
At the end of the day, just use it, you know, it's not that best flyer, but
It's not gonna break it, right? It's not, people are not gonna come because of it. It could have been better, right? But that's another, mashallah, it's fantastic. Unless something's gonna be offensive or just, you know, it doesn't even make sense or there's typographical errors or what have you, that's something to maybe say, but mashallah, that's using wisdom. Yes.
So in Islam, trust is crucial, but I think, I'm trying to get your opinion. At some points, this has to be compromised, or maybe that's not the right word. If you're chairing an event, you need advertising to be done. You talk to the individual in charge of advertising, you let them know, you have a meeting, whatever. You motivate them, use positive reinforcement, and still, to no avail. I think at that point, perhaps you may either need to remove them from the position, or you have to do the work for them, because you're the chair, or you're the leader of the event, or the program.
Right.
So everything falls on you. At the end of the day, if it's not successful because there are no attendees, then there's a problem.
Right. I think weighing how much is this going to affect the events. You know, for example, something that you really you don't like, or somebody was put in charge of perhaps the pamphlets and the way that they put them together, or in charge of the food, and it was really cheap food. And however it is, sometimes letting somebody gain the experience for the sake of gaining it and building their own confidence with the movement is important. And yes, everything falls back on you, but they also understand that you are responsible over individuals, and individuals are trying to do a collective effort. It's not always going to fall back on the leader. But if you're saying if it's happening over and over and over again, you can say maybe so-and-so can help you with it, or I want to give somebody else a try. Jazakumullah khairan for heading this, and I want to give somebody else a chance. And put them on something else, and you know, what is another area that you like? Somebody might get happy and they'll say, you know what, I'm out. Peace out. I don't want it. If you don't like my stuff and I put so much time and I did this and I did that. So you have to also weigh, if this is a valuable person and you know that they may not take it because this is the thing that they love. Does that make sense? Is it something that they'll make them leave?
Perhaps, yeah.
Is it really compromising the event?
Yeah, it's like, if there's no advertising, there are no attendees.
So it's not being advertised at all, or late.
Very minimally.
Yeah, then you can take a course of action and say, you know, maybe you help them with setting milestones. You know, by this day, this email has to be sent out. By this, I need to have the flyer. Otherwise, I'm really, you know, and I love you, and your work is very valuable, but maybe for this time, because it's very time sensitive, we're gonna have to pass on to somebody else. So I think sticking with that brother and really encouraging, or if it's a sister, but if it's something that's happening repeatedly and it's not being done, period, then I think it's tough. You have to weigh it because you're dealing with human emotions. Barakallahu feekum. So to move on, this is why we're talking about trust, because it's important within the organization. And I want to point out something here. This idea that we have within MAS, and we talked about the 10 pillars, we talked about sincerity, action, and all the other pillars that is not coming to my mind at the moment. These are concepts. It's not just particular because Imam Hassan al-Banna wrote it. It's not, you know, this is only a mass ideology and we're separatists and we came up with something and this is the old camp, the old mass camp, the old Arabs that came with it, and now we're the new mass camp and we don't agree. There's a lot of reasons, I believe, why sometimes there's hesitation with the name of mass, even if you've been within mass for a long time. But I want you to remember that this is from the prophetic teachings of Prophet ﷺ, and it's from the Quran. It's a basic idea, it's a basic framework, and it works. So sometimes I feel like our own, you know, energetic, sometimes it's ego, sometimes it's attitude, it's a perspective like, oh, well, they're from another country, this doesn't work over here. How many of you have heard this? We've heard this. Come on, guys. I know that some of you have said this yourselves. And it's easy to fall into this trap, just in the same way that when our parents tell us to do something, we know where our parents come from, we know their education, we know where they come from, and we take it and we're kind of like, they don't really know, so you kind of don't take it with full grain, right? You kind of put it with a grain of salt. You take their advice with a grain of salt. But this is an old, basic type of framework of the Jama'ah, and it can change with time because of modernization. There's going to be some creativity in it, but not to question the whole concept of the Jama'ah and the whole general concept of obedience to leader. This is basic, and this is something that's really within any type of ideology. For example, I started a master's in screenwriting because I really do want to make movies that will represent Muslims in a positive light, and also specifically for Muslim youth, in mainstream, by the way, not just for us, but even just for the Muslim youth, create videos that will really inspire and promote in certain areas that we have weaknesses in. But an interesting concept, even on the flyer for Chapman University, or the website, they said, we're gonna teach you the tools to make successful movies, but we don't want you to reinvent the wheel. There's a old, tried and true rules of making a movie, of a basic story, but we're gonna give you the tools so that you insert your own creativity, you insert your own story, your own personal vision. I'm an American Egyptian Muslim, so this is a new vision that not all of the Hitchcock didn't have, for example. And so subhanAllah, they said a movie is basic. There has to be a character who has a want, he faces obstacle against his want, and in the end he either gets it or he doesn't get it. That's the basic of any movie. Think of any movie, whether it's Annie, or Friday the 13th, or please don't ever watch those movies, they're horrible. Any Disney movie, whatever. It's the same, subhanAllah, it's the same basic framework, yet you put in your own voice. And that's the same idea with mass. Yesterday when Brother Muhammad Abbas was speaking, I kind of felt there was a little bit of resistance to what he was saying. And rightfully so. I mean, we definitely have the right to question and say, are you sure? Even wallahi, when he was speaking, in my mind, I'm just worried, okay, when you talk a certain way, is somebody gonna think that you're trying to recruit them and this is some type of secret cult or what have you? So all of us had that idea, and that's totally fine to think that, and we voiced it, and he said, no, it's not. But I could tell he was getting a little bit heated afterwards. He's like, this is his profession. SubhanAllah, he's been doing it for what, over, like, I don't know, he said like 25 years or 28 years?
30 years.
I'm sorry?
30
years. So you trust experience. I just wanted to insert that because I felt it yesterday. I felt that there was a little bit of hesitation, kind of like, well, I have a feeling that we have this tendency to sometimes take either our youth or the fact that times have changed, or even the fact that we're born here and you weren't, and it maybe we're not even that conscious of it, but I think it comes out. So just to be aware of that. I don't know if any of you noticed that yesterday, but just kind of wanted to share that. Okay. So specifically now talking about leadership within mass and within a movement in general. Why is it so important to trust your leadership? SubhanAllah, think back, how did they become a leader? Why has a leader become a leader? Did they say, I want to lead this thing? If any of you know, in general, yes?
Because they believe that they are a leader.
They believe they're a leader?
To be a leader, you have to believe in yourself that you are a leader of others.
Okay, that applies.
They took on small responsibilities that they were asked of, and they proved themselves.
Okay, so they prove themselves?
People in the organization felt that they were qualified to be in that position.
Right. They felt that they were qualified and they were chosen. Anybody else from the sisters? Come on, sisters, come on.
They were worried about what would happen if they weren't leaders, so if they're a minority in some kind of country, it can be scary for them if they're not the ones in power.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Like, if some people want to lead because they're worried about what will happen if they're not in power. So, like the Adalis in Syria, it's a really worrying, it's something that really worries them when they think that they won't be the ones that are.
Oh, I see what you're saying. SubhanAllah, right? That's even on a more global scale. Absolutely. Anybody else?
I was going to say that sometimes leadership is given to people who actually don't want it, and that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if a person doesn't want something, then it means that when they actually work for it, it's going to be so sincere, and it's going to work out just right. So, for example, Salahuddin, when he became a leader, he didn't want it, but his uncle actually kind of forced him to be the leader. He's like, okay, I'm putting you on the spot, I have to go, do this other thing in this other country. You just have to manage here in Egypt, you have to lead, and blah, blah, blah. And then he was freaked out, but he had to manage. And sometimes it's just because the people choose a leader because they see the characteristics in him, and they think that he's capable of leading the other people. So maybe the leader doesn't want it, but he can be responsible enough to
accept it. And they see that at least he has this ability to do so. And that is the general concept that we have within mass, that most of the time you are chosen to be a leader. It's not like, you can push your own agenda, and that's totally fine. You can say, somebody may not know that you're excellent computer graphics, or you're excellent in, really time scheduling and what have you, you can let your group leader know, or your usra leader, or your naqib, or what have you, let them know that. But generally speaking, you are chosen to be a leader. So somebody else entrusted this leader to be in this position. So it's a legacy of trust. If you cannot trust the leader, that means you're not trusting the one that put him in that position, and not trusting the one that put his superior or her superior in that position. So there's a legacy of trust with an organization. It's not just somebody said, you know what, I just want to be a naqib, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Somebody evaluated you, they saw that you had certain qualities, and they put you in that position. So take a moment and think, and some of you are usra leaders, some of you are naqib, some of you are in positions of power within on the national side, or local chapters, and some of you are still new to the Jama'ah, some of you are not in the Jama'ah. But I want you to understand the concept that we have this concept of amana. You've been given a trust. If somebody puts you in a position of leadership, it's an amana, and it makes you lose sleep at night. I had my time of being on the board of trustees for Greater LA area, and I didn't sleep. Wallahi, subhanAllah. Or when I was in the Tarbiyah department, you don't sleep because you're worried. You're worried that this is an amana, and all the details that are happening or not happening, and connecting and not connecting, you're worried about it, and like a sincere concern. So subhanAllah, the best way I think sometimes to feel the burden of leadership is to be put in that position, and then all of a sudden all the problems look totally different because you're on the other side of it. I think of Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And after very many characteristics, one of them, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. That the believers are successful. And one of the descriptions of why the believers are successful, because they are the ones that when they are given a trust, when they're given an amana, or they're given a covenant or contract to fulfill, that they are mindful of it. So this is one reason why us as followers, and all of us are followers, even if we're also leaders at the same time, all of us have to have this in our heart, and to understand the leader's position, and to trust them because they've been entrusted. And anybody who's given a position of leadership, it is an amana on them. It's not something to brag about. They may want to brag, but really it's something that they're worried about, and it's something that they're accountable to in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anybody want to comment or have any questions? Yes.
What is, for people who, let's say, get a position of power, or have a position of leadership, and they have never done it before?
Yes.
What happens then?
Yes, good question. So most likely, somebody saw potential. Somebody saw potential in you. And they said he's never led before, but he's sincere, mashallah. He has a good head on his shoulders. And the brothers love him, and he will be successful as a leader. But you have no idea what you're doing. They're gonna guide you, and sometimes as a test, they'll even just let you flounder. You're gonna say, you know what, here, take it. Lead Islamic Awareness Week, and you're like, okay, I'm a freshman, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's okay that you fail. The idea is that you made all of your efforts to contact the people from last year who organized Islamic Awareness Week, to ask for help, and to be a leader. A leader doesn't mean he takes upon all the responsibilities himself. That's just taking the whole load on yourself, and it's not really going to be successful. It's working with other people, and it's delegating, and it's interacting with others, and getting shura. That is the role of a leader, not running something yourself. That just means then you're in charge, and you don't really want to listen to anybody's opinion. So people in a position that chose you, sometimes they know, maybe not in the MSA, because I know that's by election, correct? That's not by shura, right? That's shura, but it's not that somebody appoints you in the MSA. Is that correct? Yes. So maybe that's not the best example, but other times if you're saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're gonna lead an usra, and it's your first time. You're not, but it's your first time. So you're gonna make mistakes, but that's okay. They saw qualities in you, and they know that you're going to be successful. So the idea is, are you gonna be successful this first time you run an event or an usra? No, but you will eventually, and that's how you learn. As I'm sure Dr. Ahmed has shared his stories of how he was 18 and put in charge of people much senior than him.
In regards to, like, let's say if you're appointed to become something like, for instance, like an Aqib for an Usra, and you start the Usra, and all of a sudden, like, you get trapped. Like, you personally are going through problems at home or going through problems with yourself. Is it okay to pull yourself out of it because you don't feel comfortable doing the work?
That's a very good question. And this is a good question in general. Like, when you have a task, do you keep going or do you give up? I say keep going. Wallahi, subhanAllah, alhamdulillah, I just want to give an example of, I had 4 children, alhamdulillah. The first time with my eldest son, I didn't have an usra at that point, I was new. But by the second child through the fourth, I was running an usra and I never stopped. Maybe like 1 week or 2 weeks, and that's it. The usra was back at my house again. And I told them, I said, I know I'm not doing the best job. At that moment, there was no other choice of anybody else in the usra, and I let them know that. And subhanAllah, the sisters felt like, wallahi, we're happy to get whatever we can. So, subhanAllah, if you're sincere and you know you're not doing your best, you let somebody else know. They may say, especially if you're in a position of naqib, I don't think they'll say, okay, you can step down. Unless it's really somehow negatively harming, but somebody in leadership will tell you that, right? Otherwise, if you're entrusted with something and you feel like I'm getting overwhelmed, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do your best. It may not be the best as you know it can be, but Allah ta'ala will give you tawfiq.
Let's say if like you start and you have a good intention and then maybe you kind of lose track of your Islam, right? Like let's say you're in a
Do you have this situation where you have somebody, you know somebody that's in this position?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you know this person's in this position.
Okay.
And you kind of notice that he's kind of getting off track. So now his understanding, his steadfastness and his understanding kind of loses track. Like, how do you go about this, like for this specific person? Like,
that's a good question.
Do you still keep him in there? Because it can really affect the people that you're teaching. Like, let's say if they find out, oh, this guy's doing this, and that outside of the usra. Like, what do you do in that kind of case?
As a follower, as somebody in this usra, I would go talk to the leadership.
Okay.
I would go to the Tarbiyah department and say, and by the way, I know that this is something, I think we started it, mashallah, Sister Selma Shabain, she's doing an excellent job, but at least I'm trying to get this going, but there is supposed to be an evaluation process. It's not just this downward type of, okay, you're in an usra and you know nothing, and there's no accountability for the usra leader. There is accountability, and the leadership should know, and you can voice your concern. That's very important. That's very important, especially if it's going to negatively affect everybody.
I just want to make a comment, correct me if I'm wrong. But for the Usra leader or the leader of whatever it is themselves, Sheikh Ajli was mentioning this in our Usra, because brothers were having trouble, and even sisters, and we all have this, where we have this conflict within ourselves. We're talking about patience, but then when it hits us, we're not patient. Right. We're talking about trust, when it hits us, we're not trustful, we don't have that tawakkul. But if we were to go based off what we do have, no one can speak. No one can speak. Even shuyukh, no matter what level you get, you're always struggling. And this is something that should be internalized by everyone. That no matter what level you reach, you're going to be struggling. There's no plateau that you reach. So not to feel discouraged that you're giving a khutbah, that you're leading an usra or anything like that. Right.
Jazakumullah khairan. That's extremely important. And I think that is one of the reasons that sometimes we lose trust. Well, you're teaching this, but look at you with, either your wife or with your mother or with your sisters, or look how you act, or look at your room, or look at your car, or whatever it is, look how bad shape or what have you. That's extremely important. Whether it's yourself that's been entrusted and you know you have weaknesses, and we all do, or you see this weakness in your leader. So I saw another hand. Oh yes. And then
I was going to say that the naqib has a naqib.
Yes.
So when the naqib is struggling, he or she has a support group.
Right.
And so they're supposed to be getting that moral support there.
Right.
And so it doesn't cascade down.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the beauty, subhanAllah, guys, of the Jama'ah. Some of you that were saying that that there's a call, and one of the brothers mentioned there's a call to no Jama'ah. Right. This is the beauty. You're in a network. You're in a network of support, of love, and of trust. And you can't just get this. There's so many amazing Muslim organizations that, mashallah, they're excellent at executing in certain areas. Whether it's politics, whether it's homeless feedings, or whether it's for the poor, what have you. But something beautiful and special about Mass and I felt it myself, is that you have this support system. There is this subhanAllah. You can go, I swear, you can go somewhere, you can go across the world, and somebody is, in other countries it's not called mass, it's called, whatever it's called in Pakistan and India, what is it? Jamaat Islamiyya, and in England it's called MAC or MAB or what have you. You go and you feel there's something special about this person. When Suhail and I went to study in Egypt, and all of the Western students, we bonded, and subhanAllah, almost every single one of them came from the Jama'ah. Every single one of them. And there's something special, you can feel it. And there's this automatic trust. We don't know who you are. You could be a terrorist for somebody else who would be concerned that you're a terrorist or you have some hidden agenda. And we would be sharing food and we'd be inviting each other and we asked to watch our kids where we did something, and subhanAllah, it's an automatic trust. And this is something that's ingrained and very special in this organization. And it builds one upon the other. Understanding, sincerity, action, all of those, you cannot have one without the other. And that's why this is so special, subhanAllah. Oh, Alina, I'm sorry, Lina had something and then.
I just wanted to add on to that. Like my Nafiba,
yes.
She, I was once going to do something and I was completely overwhelmed so many times. I wanted to say I can't do this, but like through her help and her training, like it was a very big support for me personally, and like she was like very, very, very nice, alhamdulillah, and very encouraging in training. And subhanAllah, like she would like tell me things and what's the ayah of Allah that so Allah won't give you something unless you can take it. So even though you want to give up, Allah knows you can do it. That's why He gave it to you. So there's like that's probably your nafs and shaitan like kind of whispering to you, encouraging you to the opposite basically of what is the right and harder path.
Exactly, right and harder, and having to give up some fun things or some other things that you really want instead of putting in this work.
So this is something I always wanted to ask. So especially during the Ta'aruf, I think a big part of it is trust.
Yes.
And being open, being vulnerable, and trusting that nobody will share anything in. I feel like by opening up, you're building that trust. But what if it comes to a point where someone betrays that trust? How do you deal with that, and how would that affect your trust of maybe, let's say, the organization itself? Because sometimes you can generalize.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So is this person that broke or that breaks the trust, are they in a position of leadership? Or just somebody that doesn't have enough understanding that, okay, when we talk about ta'aruf, when we talk about building trust with one another, this information stays here and they just didn't get it somehow, or they're not.
I'm just saying, just in general, as a protection of someone, like of yourself.
Right.
Like whoever it is.
Okay.
It's like you feel as if, okay, I want to take a step to earn that trust, but then when you see it kind of betrayed, it doesn't matter who it is.
Okay.
I mean, it'll obviously be a lot more serious if it's someone in a leadership
That would be
position,
concerning, right?
but just in general.
Jazakumullah khair. That's very tough because that's the catch-22, as I was explaining what catch-22 means, double-edged sword of trust, is that you cannot build trust without you yourself making yourself vulnerable. So you're trusting that the other person will share, will keep what you're telling them a secret, and at the same time you're wanting them to do the same, but somebody has to make the first step. But again, it comes from a place of understanding that to build that, what is the purpose of ta'aruf? It's to know one another so that we can work together, so that we can love one another, so that we can trust each other, so that we can move as a group and push this whole ummah forward, the whole society, the whole world forward. So to get
more,
but betrayal.
Yeah, like how to deal with
betrayal of trust. That's hard.
In terms of like regaining that level of trust, it takes one little thing to kind of.
It does. And is it really somebody exposing a secret? The betrayal of trust, is that like sharing information that you've entrusted to them?
Either a secret or maybe just like not being there when someone's needed.
I see. That's a good point, but because that one is a harder one, I think, to deal with, sharing a secret. But not being there when a time was needed, it may not necessarily be a betrayal of trust, unless that you had a conversation with that person. I would go off of husn al-dhan. Unless it's well known that they intentionally didn't care. That does take time to build. If you knew somebody was not there to help you and they preferred to keep going to the movies and you're stranded in a parking lot and your car didn't start, then that is a betrayal of trust, and that does take time. And you let them know that, so that I really thought you were gonna help me, and sometimes you can share that if it's kind of still a new relationship, you let it go. But otherwise, if you didn't have that conversation, husn al-dhan is key, because wallahi, sometimes the craziest stories you would never believe, and there's a reason why some actions may have looked negative, but they weren't.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that my Naqib, he's a very busy person.
Okay.
But he's the leader of some organizations and whatnot. But then every week we meet up for about 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours. And he told us, guys, I'm actually getting busy, like for the next 2-3 months. And if I can, I would actually like leave right now. But I will not leave until I get you a person to lead your halqa. So he actually did that. We saw him like come. He would like be so tired in the halqa, but then he would still meet up until we had actually a person. He said, "Alhamdulillah, I got a person to lead it." So he didn't just step down. He actually said, "I'll take it easier by leading a smaller group that I can maybe kind of not have to spend the same amount of time with. Right. But I will still be leading." Mashallah. So when after a time being with him, he said, "Ahmed, you're ready to lead a halqa." But then I wasn't even.
You didn't think you
tried
were,
to
of
argue.
course.
I tried. I'm
Right.
not even ready to lead a halqa. But he said, I'll get a group of the middle schoolers and some of the high schoolers.
Yes.
And you choose them, give me the list, and I'll get you a halqa. So alhamdulillah, I did. But then after 2 months or 3 months, I realized that we actually learned a lot, but maybe I wasn't being the best example for them.
Okay.
So I told him, I'm not leaving the halqa until you give me a leader to take that halqa.
But that's different. I'm going to put you on the spot. That's different because you are questioning your qualifications. Somebody put you in that position because they saw the qualifications. I don't know you extremely well, but I know you well enough. I think that you are qualified for that. And that's the beauty of being chosen. That you're not like, oh yeah, I'm really nice and I'm funny and I think everyone will love me and I can really lead an usra. But maybe there's something missing in you that the leadership sees, that maybe you're just not ready just yet. Or there's some particular quality that may really distract from the group's goals. And vice versa, you see something in yourself, this is a weakness of mine, but it's not something that's really gonna affect the benefits that you're giving to the group. SubhanAllah. Just like I felt I was really not giving enough to my usra during the times when I was extremely there'd be kids screaming in the middle of usra. Can you imagine? Whenever Sheikh Swal's usra is there, it's so quiet. You cannot hear anything. I have, I'm free during that time. But unfortunately, when it was during my time and Sheikh Swal is out at night, and mine has to be in the evening, kids are running across and asking me to take them to the bathroom. And I said, I feel so bad. I don't think this is good. I think we should just stop. And they're like, no, because we're still getting a benefit. So no matter what type of weakness you think you have, or you just feel like you're not ready, you're still benefiting the people, and that's really important.
Yeah.
So I don't agree.
The thing is, you just have to be, if you're in that position, I realize that everyone in that halqa looked up to me.
Yes.
So right now, alhamdulillah, for the last week actually, I gave another brother to actually the halqa, who is an older brother.
Okay.
So
who probably doesn't have time. He's probably gonna start saying later.
No. That's his profession, to deal with the. So right now I actually get calls from them and they say, Ahmed, because I tend to care about their grades and how they do in school and stuff. So anytime they have that hardship, they call me, but I just felt that I wasn't the best example for them. So right now, alhamdulillah, with my Naqib, he said, okay, you're gonna help, you're gonna observe me lead the halqa, you're gonna help me lead the halqa, you're gonna put your input in the halqa, and then we're gonna put you through this entire tawbiyah thing, and then from that you build on. But it wasn't that I stepped down. And
mashallah. No, that is very honorable, mashallah. The fact that you voiced your concern and that it was dealt with, mashallah. That is the best thing, that if you ever have to be relieved for a moment that you actually ask permission, mashallah. And that is following your leader. That's that trust, because you trusted your leader. Thank you.
just adding to what Ahmed was saying, Allah, I think one of the most beautiful things about this Jama'at is being chosen. And I think the reason why it's so beautiful is because it helps you preserve your sincerity. I can't tell you how many times, I'm only sharing this because I think it helps learn the lesson, but I can't tell you how many times when you're chosen, you have the ability to tell Allah, make sincere dua, Ya Allah, you know I didn't seek this. Ya Allah, you know I didn't seek after this position. I didn't seek after this title or this responsibility. But you know I was chosen for it, so please help me fulfill it. When you make that dua with sincerity, like just being chosen in of itself, having that system system built into our Islamic work, that in of itself helps us make that dua to Allah. Ya Allah, help me preserve my sincerity.
Yes. Sister, wake up, sister. What happened?
Another one is you will not feel the heavy of responsibility until you be in the position of that responsibility.
Yes.
So you have to help your brother to build that trust, because one day you will be in that position.
Exactly.
And you will feel the same, subhanAllah, feeling what you used to say before, and you will blame and they say like problems and, but now you are in the position. So what?
Yes, definitely. Make dua for the leadership. Barakallah feek. Okay, we have about 20 minutes. I want to hit some other points, inshallah. So how do you build trust with the leader? How do you build trust? One of them is something that we just mentioned, and that's ta'aruf. You have to know your leader. Know them. So usually it is their position to get to know you. It may be though that maybe we're not just talking about your naqib. Most likely they're going to share with you very deep stories and what have you. But maybe you want to know your board, for example, better, or the youth leader better, or what have you. Go and ask them for a coffee date. SubhanAllah. Go and say, or if it's like a family situation, have them over for dinner, or say, can I meet with you? I have some ideas, I have some concerns. You don't understand, SubhanAllah, the difference that it makes if you go to the chairman of the board or what have you and say, I really want to meet with you, they will meet with you. Because they know the importance of it. Has anybody ever requested that and been denied? Has anybody requested it actually? Has anybody ever made a request to meet with the chairman or somebody in a position like more than their naqib to meet? I met with them. Okay. So raise your hand. Oh, okay, now this is I'm gonna come to you guys. Okay, mashallah. And what was the result of that?
I think it's weird because I was just starting a project that this particular, he's kind of like a Dr. Muhammad Abbas, he's like an expert businessman.
Okay.
He kind of like raised all of the, my dad's generation, in their Ustadha and like in business, and all of them have jobs because of him.
Okay, mashallah. Mashallah.
And he saw, I felt it was very weird because he automatically recommended me to like a position that's higher than mine, even though I didn't, I was totally not ready, and we're still talking about that.
Right.
They see so much in you, and you remember them from, you were 5 years old, and now you're sitting at the same table and having coffee.
It's really weird.
Yeah, but it's really valuable, honestly, just to be validated and to hear their dreams, like all the projects that they wish that they had, applied, and now like we're, the things that we were coming up with Matthew kind of intersected with their ideas.
Guys, let's keep the conversation, please. The ladies are being very quiet. Please, let's do the same. Good job. Yes. And that they're sharing their dreams with you, and that's amazing.
For us to see, some way to overlap like our projects with their dreams, and inshallah it's working. It's really good to have that support, and honestly they also have, depending on who you're talking to, they have deep pockets and they can sponsor a lot of projects that, we're doing. Besides they're already, the fact that they're already contributing to mass, but if they see that you're really passionate about something, and they see like a, like a successful outcome, it's really helpful.
So that support is key. Yes. You have raised your hand, right?
Yeah. So we had, I think 2 years ago, we had been like our system had not changed for a really long time. So it was like about 4 or 5 which had been there for 2 years, and a lot of people were kind of like, you can tell that like it wasn't like the people were not in the right position because people like over time had changed and like just no one was in the right position. So people were really frustrated with the Tanbiyah part, but they were kind of really above us. We were kind of like on the youth committees, and then they were like, you would never see them. You could see them like at like the fundraisers.
Right.
So I think it was me and then 2 other sisters who kind of like how sometimes there's event sessions within that. So like we heard the event session, a little bit of part of the event session, and then but we felt like you couldn't just have that and then not follow up with it, because that's kind of what we always do, and then we never like make things happen.
It can be counterproductive.
Right. So we just right up to our like the Tarbiyah department person. We just told him like, listen, we want to meet with you and we want to just talk about. So we did it, and it wasn't just like complain to him about what was going on with us, but he sat there and explained to us kind of like how he started as a Tarbiyah coordinator, like what his visions, and like even for ourselves, like why he saw us there or here, and he was asking us questions about ourselves and like why we wanted to be here and stuff like that. So it was very, very helpful and beneficial, and it was like someone who we would have never ever thought to talk to before. We were really intimidated by him, but SubhanAllah, it really helped, and even now like he'll come up to us and ask us and how you're doing and all these things.
Inshallah. That you took that step. Always we feel like there's transparency is very key to any organization, and being able to have the leadership be approachable. It's really key, and that is what MAS is all about. And that's very important, to not feel like it's some higher cloud and we don't know where they are, to actually go and approach them and look at the results. I'm going to get to you, brother, in a second. Yes. Rochelle, did you want to add? You're from the same chapter. Okay, so you had the same experience.
Yeah.
Or if you had a different one, share.
Well, I was actually forced to participate in paper. And I held it for 2 months, but then I let it go. I mean, our Sunday director is still very upset with me.
And I would be too.
It's a difficult situation.
Yes, okay, good. I will. Inshallah. So, I mean, and that can happen sometimes, that maybe the Tarbiyah department or there is something very private in your life, maybe perhaps that they didn't know, that maybe prevent you from doing the best that you can, or even really being able to commit at the time. But again, it's that communication with the leadership and letting them know. That's key. Yes. Yeah, mashallah. Yeah.
Like one of the things I noticed from my experiences is that most people are their own biggest critics.
Yes.
So the thing is, it's kind of hard for us to kind of see the potential in ourselves, but it's easier for somebody from the outside to see the potential in us.
Exactly.
Because like I've noticed, like whether it's like MSA or like in the school or stuff, like if a professor or like somebody puts me in a position, yeah, at first I'm nervous, but the thing is, alhamdulillah, it ends up like everything works out like naturally in that position.
MashaAllah. And the key is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you tawfiq in this. Not so that everyone will say, oh, you did a good job, and you don't want to look bad in front of your classmates, in front of the school or the masjid or the organization, but because truly you want to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you did your best effort. Because again, it's an amana. You're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here. And then in that dealing, you're affecting other people. That's why it's a responsibility, and that's why there has to be trust. So going back to ta'aruf and understanding your leader, if you're not in a situation where you're really in proximity, you know, with anybody, whether it's MSA or whether it's an usra situation or department situation, if you're not in that position where you directly know them, get to know them and ask them and do the same thing. And I know some of you are shaking your heads, but you did it, and it was successful. Because event session in and of itself, all it does, it brings up the negativity that more people share, and sometimes there is a real problem. There's always going to be problems, guys, with an organization, and to me, it's a happy problem. We have it throughout MAS. It's a happy problem of growth and expansion, or like, we have all these people, what do we do? Right? I'm kind of animated about it. That's literally what it is. SubhanAllah, we have this many usras. How are we going to combine them? How are we going to connect them? How are we going to have these departments talk to each other? What are we going to do? This is a happy problem. And the more people that can actually take their frustration and go to leadership and say, these are some of the ideas, you know, when they call you to a meeting, it's your responsibility to come. When they have these group meetings and say, we want to hear your feedback, it's your responsibility to go and give your feedback. Otherwise, you're just part of the problem. Nadia.
So when you're in certain things like MAS, you have a community of like brothers and sisters, and we always get together for meetings and whatnot.
Yes.
And within the night, you want people to know, who your brothers and sisters who your movement are.
Yes.
What are some tips or ways that you would suggest to do, or what should people do within these meetings that would allow these brothers and sisters to get to know each other and build that trust, sisters among sisters, brothers among brothers, and sisters and brothers together too?
In your committee, have you guys done, like, introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about yourselves?
Yes.
But superficially, probably.
I feel
Yeah.
And I have some of my committee members here, sometimes, but I feel like that's what it is, and I don't want them to keep coming back every single other week or whatever and still not know or understand who their brothers and sisters within their
Absolutely. And this is a key point. Exactly for bringing that up, Nadia. a key point to building trust within leadership is to know them and to understand them and to build that bond. SubhanAllah, trust doesn't come without bond building. You have to get to know, and sometimes it's outside of the meeting. Allahu alam, you guys can perhaps do some type of outside activity where you're outside somewhere. That always makes a bond stronger, just like that suggested for an usr event. Don't always just meet in one place, if it's in the masjid or in a home or what have you. Go out sometime and do something as a group, an activity. Even if it's just in a park and everybody brings donuts and orange juice at one time in the morning, you know, even though that's not healthy, but the orange juice is healthy. But being outside of your element, but sometimes are you in charge? Are you the leader of that committee? Yeah, mashallah. So sometimes you can also pick particular questions that you want everybody to answer this time. Not just, oh, I'm this years old, I went to this university and I live here and that's it. That's what everyone's gonna give. The next time that you have a meeting, every time you start a meeting, you can do that. And actually we did that on the board. That every time the chairman would ask us something different, and we really got to know each other. Actually, subhanAllah, this is kind of sad in the beginning. One of the brothers so I didn't even know which one was Lobna and which one was Saima, and I didn't know your Sheikh Sohail was. We didn't even know who we were because we didn't even get to introduce ourselves. We met right away and it was like, we have a lot of problems, let's get to it. So every time, maybe you ask something a little bit deeper. I'm not saying extremely personal, but something beyond the superficial level. Even this idea, well, like we were doing this at the sisters table. I don't know if you guys did this. Did you guys play this game, Two Truths and a Lie? Truths and a Lie, did you guys play that game? That's a fantastic thing. You say something that you will give 3 facts that you are hoping to think they're so different about you that you don't know if it's a lie or a truth. And it really does, it becomes fun and you really do get to learn about somebody in that way. So I think that really does help.
And like, how can you make it so it's like a comfortable setting so the brothers and sisters know that this is the safe space for them, this is their brothers and sisters within the Jama'ah, and they're allowed to come here and, you know, we're working for the sake of Allah. And do you get what I'm trying to say? Like,
yes.
That comfortable kind of setting, and also where that trust is created, and like, you know, the boundaries are set and stuff, obviously, but we are brothers and sisters within the movement, so we want to know each other, and we want to work together for the sake of Allah. So
have you given this type of a reminder? Because that in and of itself is to me sufficient. Giving a reminder on the subject, and sometimes having somebody outside that's well respected and setting the tone for the group, sometimes it helps. Because oftentimes when you're just within your peers, sometimes it's hard to kind of everyone just to build the trust so quickly, although we should, but sometimes having somebody from the outside come, somebody that's respected within the community, within the movement to come and kind of set the tone, I think that may help as well. Inshallah.
Tried so many times to kind of find the similarity or find common ground, but we've never done that, or we haven't reached that point yet. And I was kind of wondering if you've had that kind of experience and have been able to find a bond.
Right. That's a very important question. I don't know if everybody could hear, but basically when you're put in a situation where you don't really, the age, the life situation doesn't really match. How are you still able to bond? And honestly, you do have something in common. It's not ideal. And I know usually within Ustadha that is the goal, is to try to place people together. That is the idea. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and you don't want someone to wait for 5 years until somebody else moves into your vicinity, or that you're not going to drive an hour for Ustadha. Sometimes it's just not feasible. The thing that you do have in common is the fact that you're all seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you all want to better yourselves, and you all want to be part of the movement. That to me, wallahi, sometimes it's our own mindset that we have to change a little bit. Go in saying, you know, I have no idea what being a mom is like. I'm not even close to that. You know, working, I'm not there yet. You know, and so I'm not in that same life situation. But there's still other elements of just being a human being, of having difficulties, of having problems, having relationships, whether it's within your family or a spousal relationship or a community relationship. And those are things that everybody has in common. So sometimes it's being in an uncomfortable place and making it comfortable. That in and of itself is tarbiyah. That is like, you know what, I'm going to make this work.
What if like, we're also in different levels, learning levels, not just, you know, we have completely different minds, but we're also at different learning levels?
That is difficult. That is difficult. We have, and like that. It was very mixed, like you said, of not only life situation but also kind of understanding. And sometimes you kind of, just like being in a classroom with different ability of, let's say, math learners, sometimes you're going to teach higher level, and sometimes the people who are still trying to get their basics together, they're not going to be able to get it, and vice versa. The people who know more are just going to have to be patient and think like, oh, this is so dumb. I already know this. Why are you boring me with this information? That's also, subhanAllah, a practice of patience, but also humility. So it's tough. It's not an ideal situation, and that's an important point that brought up. Being on Tarbiyah department, literally, wallahi, subhanAllah, you want to pull your hair out. You're like, I really don't know what to do. I don't want this person to wait anymore. And they're really frustrated. Like what's Master's problem? Why can't we get into an usra? And like, you know what? It's gonna have to be like this for now. Be patient. And I have been in a situation where a group of everybody had a child, and there was one, mashallah, she was so mature. She was a 17-year-old, and she has nothing in common with us, but we loved her for the sake of Allah. She loved us for the sake of Allah, and we were really proud of her that she was patient, and now she's a leader. So it's really, subhanAllah, sometimes pushing down your own nafs and saying, we're gonna make this work, even though we're really on different playing fields. Yes.
How important is giving someone the benefit of the doubt over and over?
Do you know this person well enough to know that it's just it's a character flaw, or is there something to question their trust?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please? How important is giving someone the benefit of the doubt? Because according to
multiple times, he said over and over and over again, giving somebody the benefit of the doubt.
I mean, according to my ethics professor, we're all natural liars.
Okay.
So I understand, giving someone the benefit of the doubt. White lies are okay every now and then.
Right.
But when when someone is in your usra, or you guys are family, you guys are like brothers.
Right.
And they just do it over and over and over and over again. Should you speak up, like, stop?
That's a very, very tough point. I had somebody like that. Is extremely difficult. Wallahi, sometimes, this particular example that I had, I really felt it was a sickness. Like an illness, not just like they're a liar. I really felt like they had some type of mental issue. And that's not to be made fun of at all. Some people just have this compulsive, and it could be not mental, like they were born that way, but because they had such trauma when they were a child, this was their defense mechanism, and they couldn't stop. It was extremely frustrating. But subhanAllah, once I understood her, I knew her more. I knew that her mother was the same way, and is extremely frustrating, and it's really difficult. But it gave me understanding. It's like, oh, I'm gonna let it go. I'm not gonna give her certain responsibilities. Maybe I'm not gonna, but I'm not gonna get as mad every time they do it. So I don't know if understanding the situation, maybe you can get to know each other better. And if it's something fun that you can call out, it's like, I know you didn't really do that. Come on. Why are you always making stuff up? I'm wondering if maybe eventually you can get to the heart of, maybe they're so insecure that they're constantly having to make up lies. So it's not necessarily that you're going to give them benefit of the doubt that they're not lying, if you know they are, but giving them the benefit of the doubt as to why are they doing that. That's part of understanding and loving your brother or sister for the sake of Allah. Why are they doing this thing that I really hate? And it doesn't have to be just lying, it can be other things. Constantly late. For somebody, they're just trying to make it, they're happy they just made it. And for somebody else, it's extreme disrespect. You're not respecting us by you coming late, and so there has to be husn al-dhan, there has to be giving the benefit of the doubt in that sense, because you don't know what their situation is. So it's not necessarily that you have to believe them, but giving the benefit of the doubt as to why they're doing that, I would do that. Because wallahi, that creates love, and that creates a brotherhood, and I hope you come to the bottom of that, inshallah. And you can call them out on it, especially when it's something not as severe. I hope that's something. Until we only have a few minutes left, I know that I've been given the look. But subhanAllah, we covered most of it. Okay, we talked about a lot of what I wanted to discuss. But one of the things, so basically to have trust with the leadership and have trust with the members, not only is it important to love one another, but to respect one another. So we talked about this already, respecting their differences and respecting people's struggles. Everybody has a struggle. You have an extreme weakness, somebody else, and they're not the same thing. So sometimes you have an understanding for somebody, a particular type of weakness, and not for another, and it really can create enmity. But again, if having that husn al-dhan, having that benefit of the doubt, that can create respect for one another. And when you respect somebody, you can trust them. When you love them, you can trust them. When you are able to push down your nafs and obey them for the sake of following through with an event, that is trusting your leadership. And again, at the end of the day, you're fulfilling an amana between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I do want to throw something out there that look at ourselves sometimes when we constantly are nitpicking at everything that maybe you're in a qiba or you're in a qib or somebody in the department or somebody in a position of leadership has. Why are you constantly debating or criticizing or arguing for the sake of arguing? Some people, I notice, subhanAllah, they love to do it just for the sake of it, and it messes up the entire meeting. You come back home late, and Sheikh Suhail's like, what happened? And I said, I don't know, man, I have a headache and I just want to go to sleep. So subhanAllah, 3 hours, and you accomplish 0. So this is a time killer, and it's actually a trust killer. You're actually, if I see somebody doing that over and over and over again, I'm going to start losing trust in that person. Whether it's between members or it's between leadership or vice versa. So look at yourself and be honest with yourself. And I think all of us have this at varying times. Maybe you know something very well, a particular field or a particular area, and so you feel like, man, this guy has no idea what he's doing. It's like, what the heck? And you have this bit of maybe rightful type of a feeling that you could have done a better job in this field. But sometimes it goes beyond that, and it's really an act of being arrogant. So let's watch that, because I do feel that an act of not trusting somebody sometimes, it's a fact of arrogance, like I know more, they're from another country, they're younger than me, they're older than me, what does he know? But subhanAllah, they were chosen in this position, and experience speaks a lot for itself. One thing to have fresh ideas, and mashallah, that's why you're here to insert, and at any level, and then experience also is a very valuable tool, and having the two marry each other is extremely important. So inshallah, having love and respect and understanding with sincerity, being part of a movement, inshallah, it will develop that air of trust. And it cannot be one-sided. I cannot trust you and share very deeply with all of you if I know that you, A, are not going to go out and tell everything that I just told you, or B, if I know that you're not going to give it back to me. So inshallah, it's a two-way street. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really bless this jama'ah and bless all of you for coming here and sharing your deepest moments. I know that you're doing a lot of ta'aruf and a lot of deep sharing with one another. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum.